Have you ever wondered about the unseen effects of war on human health? The immediate impacts are, of course, physical injuries, some of which can be life-altering. Let's look at the situation in Gaza, for instance. The locals here not only suffer from physical wounds caused by the war, but they also face a high risk of disease due to rapidly deteriorating living conditions. But there's more. The psychological damage is often overlooked, yet it's an integral part of the war's aftermath. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, anxiety and depression are common amongst Gazans who have witnessed the horrors of war. Think about it. In the midst of chaos, clean water becomes a luxury, proper sanitation takes a back seat, and the overall living conditions in Gaza deteriorate rapidly. This combination creates a breeding ground for diseases, which can sweep through the population faster than a bullet. So you see, the impacts of war go beyond the battlefield. It's a ripple effect that touches every aspect of life, with health being one of the most critical in places like Gaza. As we move further into the timeline of war, the health effects become even more devastating. What happens when war drags on for weeks, even months? The repercussions become increasingly severe, particularly in the realm of human health. Let's break it down by time frames. From the first day to the 30th day of war, the primary health concern is malnutrition. With reduced food supplies, people are unable to meet their basic dietary needs. Their bodies begin to weaken, their immunity drops, and they become more susceptible to diseases. Children are the most vulnerable during this period. Their growth can be stunted, both physically and cognitively, due to the lack of essential nutrients. As we move from the 30th day to the 100th day, the situation worsens. A lack of clean water leads to a whole new set of problems. Waterborne diseases like cholera and dysentery begin to spread. These illnesses, already dangerous in their own right, are exacerbated by the weakened immune systems caused by malnutrition. The effects are devastating and the death toll begins to rise. But it's not just physical health that suffers. The mental toll of living through a war can be just as damaging, if not more so. Prolonged exposure to stress and trauma can lead to a range of psychological issues. Post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety disorders become prevalent. The constant fear and uncertainty can lead to insomnia and other sleep disorders. Mental health services are often scarce in war zones, leaving these conditions untreated and worsening their effects. Imagine living through this for 100 days. Imagine the strain it puts on your body, your mind. It's a grim picture, but it's the reality for many people living through war. So, when we ask what happens when war drags on for weeks, even months, the answer is simple, yet horrifying. As days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, the toll on human health becomes alarmingly severe. But what about the aftermath, when the dust settles? The echoes of war reverberate long after the last gunshot has faded. The health impacts in particular continue to haunt those who've survived. Chronic diseases, often induced by extended periods of malnutrition and stress, become a grim reality for many. The lack of clean water and sufficient food takes a toll, not just physically, but psychologically as well. The trauma, the nightmares, the constant state of fear. These psychological scars may last for years, even after the war has ended, manifesting as post-traumatic stress disorder or depression. And then there's the Herculean task of rebuilding the health infrastructure, often shattered to its very core. These impacts are not isolated. They ripple through communities, through families, through generations. They shape futures and rewrite histories. While the visible scars of war may heal, the unseen health effects can linger for years, affecting not just individuals but entire generations. But what about the families and civilians caught in the crossfire? War does not discriminate. It's not just the soldiers who bear the brunt, but also the innocent bystanders. The children who lose their childhood, the parents who lose their children, the families that are torn apart. The physical trauma is just the tip of the iceberg. The psychological trauma, the emotional scars, they're the ones that take the longest to heal. Imagine a child whose education is disrupted, whose playgrounds are replaced with battlefields. The long-term effects of this disruption are immense, affecting not just their development but also their future prospects. The lack of education can lead to a cycle of poverty and violence, a cycle that is incredibly hard to break. Then there's the struggle for survival. In the face of scarcity, of food, of water, of basic necessities, the human spirit is tested to its limits. But it's in these moments of struggle that the resilience of the human spirit shines the brightest. Stories of families helping each other, of communities coming together, of individuals rising above their circumstances, these are the stories that give us hope. The impact of war extends beyond the battlefield, deeply affecting the lives of families and civilians and shaping the future of societies. It's a ripple effect that extends far and wide, and it's these stories that we need to tell, these voices that we need to amplify.